So, hello everyone, and welcome to the Treasuring Women Global Summit. This is the first time that we're doing this, and we hope that we can do it for many more years to come. This event is designed to bring you inspiring discussions around the women's empowerment movement in celebration of International Women's Day, which is today. And I would like to extend a special thank you to our co-sponsor, We the World, and our guest speaker, Sandy Hart. We thank you all for being here and joining us in this conversation. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers for you, beginning with our co-sponsor, Rick Ulfik, founder of We the World and the We campaign at we.net. Then we'll hear from our guest speaker, Sandy Hart, director of the Women and Girls sector of Charter for Compassion International. Both will be sharing the wonderful and inspiring work their organizations are doing for women and our world. Next, we'll be hearing from a few of the ladies that are working within Treasures from the Universe, who will be sharing their stories of empowerment. We have Nina Layberg, founder of Angels Whisper, Nancy Jane, founder of Peaceful Awakenings, and Sarah Otis, founder of Healing Hands Holistic Therapies. And of course, there's me. You'll hear from me too. Afterwards, we will open up the lines for comments and questions for our audience towards the end. So let's get started. Rick Ulfik is the founder of We the World and the We campaign at we.net. Rick is the co-creator of the annual 11 Days of Global Unity, 11 Ways to Change the World, and as many as 700 associated events in over 60 countries. Participants have included Desmond Tutu, Jane Goodall, Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, and Ralph Nader, as well as Amnesty International, Oxfam America, United Religions Initiative, the Shift Network, and the Compassion Games. Rick, thank you again for participating and being here with us, being our co-sponsor. Please tell us more about the inspiring work you and your organization are engaging in.
Well, thank you, Angel, for putting together this inspiring summit for International Women's Day. It's an honor for me to be with you and Sandy Hart and all the women leaders you've assembled. So the mission of my organization, We the World, is to maximize social change globally until we have a world that works for all. We're in the coalition building, movement building business, and we do that primarily through our We campaign at we.net, which you mentioned. Over the years, we've worked with some of the most visionary thinkers and activists on the planet. You mentioned some of them, Jane Goodall, Desmond Tutu, Deepak Chopra, also Marianne Williamson, Daniel Ellsberg, and I would say Sandy Hart, who we're going to hear from today as well. So the question is, why is maximizing social change for a world that works for all so important now? So on one hand, I think we're beginning to see a cultural shift taking place in which the power imbalance between men and women is becoming publicly recognized through the Me Too and Time's Up movements. The problem is, as you probably agree with, the problem is that patriarchy has dominated our civilization for literally thousands of years, and its catastrophic effects can be seen throughout our society. Someone who has studied this in great detail and who is a longtime supporter and advisory board member of We the World is Riane Eisler. She's the author of The Chalice and the Blade. You may have heard of that. Her studies indicate that the patriarchy of thousands of years ago is actually the source of all forms of hierarchy and systems of domination that we find in our industrial societies today. So if you look at rising inequality, for example, I was really horrified to hear this report that came out from Oxfam. According to them, in 2016, there were just 62 people worldwide whose wealth equaled that of the poorest half of humanity. That's 3.6 billion people, and 62 people had the same amount of wealth as half of humanity. And then in 2017, it went down to just 8 men. 8 men with the same wealth as half of humanity. So this is increasing, this wealth gap, this inequality. So the consolidation of wealth and power is not only driving economic insecurity in millions and hundreds of millions of people around the world, it's behind the huge amount of money in politics, which affects all other issues, from healthcare to immigration, gun control, war, and of course, climate change. I usually say climate disruption. So for me, the sad thing is that all of these issues are keeping people distracted from dealing with what could be our highest priorities, according to scientists, which is the mass extinction of species and climate change could become irreversible within the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, we're right on the edge of it now. And, you know, of course, climate change gets a lot of media attention, and the extinction of species is also extremely significant and can be catastrophic, you know, with estimates of 75 to 200 species going out of existence every year. And that could result in the coming decades of these collapses in the food chain. We're already starting to see some of that with fisheries and other parts of our whole biosystem on the planet. So to deal with this, we have to overcome our differences and disputes and come together. And that's what We the World is focused on. The idea of harnessing the power of collective awareness and action. So We the World and our We campaign are working to achieve unprecedented cooperation and coordination between the transformative grassroots organizations and movements in order to build public and political will for solutions to these problems that we've been talking about: inequality, climate disruption, and war, all while sparking a cultural shift towards we consciousness. And we consciousness is aligned with what Riane Eisler talks about, which she calls partnership culture. So it's the idea of moving from domination culture to partnership culture. And the idea is the well-being of each person and the whole web of life are prioritized as being necessary for the well-being of all. The goal is a culture where power with is the norm rather than power over, especially between men and women. So I want to invite all of you to collaborate with We the World. Just go to we.net. Remember, it's all about we, right? So we.net to get your organization involved, post events on our public international calendar, and you yourself can join our We team. At we.net, you can see and participate in all the events and programs happening later today, in fact, for International Women's Day after our talk today. Like Karen Palmer's Facebook Live interviews, Heidi Little's Candlelight Vigil at 8 p.m. in every time zone for love, care, and respect for all women and girls. So we have all of these things up on the on we.net. You can see it all happening there. There's also a 72-hour webcast, a special webcast for International Women's Day on the Peace Channel. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you for being an example for all men. We can do this together. We really can.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, and next we have Sandy Hart. Sandy is the director of the Women and Girls sector of Charter for Compassion International. She is president of SARA, the Spiritual and Religious Alliance for Hope. She is a member of the international team for the One Humanity Institute, the Auschwitz Project, and serves on the Women's Task Force for the Parliament of the World's Religions. Sandy apparently does a lot. And welcome, Sandy, and thank you for being here with us. Would you like to share your inspiring work that you and your organization are part of?
Thank you so much, Angel. And I want to extend Rick's gratitude. I join Rick in that deep gratitude in you holding the space. I can't wait to hear from the other women on this call. And I'm just really grateful and honored to be here. Yeah, let's start with the Charter for Compassion, because as Rick was saying, you know, it's all about we, and the Charter for Compassion is a repository of compassion. We play host to all efforts working to elevate compassion, as Karen Armstrong says, to dethrone ourselves from the center of the universe and put another in its place, and really create a culture of one humanity. The Charter for Compassion was started when Karen Armstrong received the first TED Prize for her compelling argument that compassion is the solution to all of our world's problems. That when we make compassion our beacon and our clear, dynamic, and luminous force for our polarized world, we can start to see measurable and unprecedented impact on pretty much every condition known to man. The Charter for Compassion is actually 4 impeccable paragraphs making up literally a document of compassion. You can find it at charterforcompassion.org. Over the course of the last, less than 10 years, more than 400 cities have signed on to the Charter, with working groups working in the manner of collective impact to address the issues of their city. Karen says an uncomfortable city is a compassionate city. A city is, compassion is often the most painstaking experience that any of us really live into. It's when we step out of our comfort level and put another in its place. This is the meaning of compassion. And having willingness to end their suffering. This is the meaning of compassion. So Cities of Compassion, we now have over 2,000 partners of compassion organized into 12 sectors of society. And those 12 sectors are arts, education, and the environment, healthcare, restorative justice, social justice, education, religion and spirituality. And I am the founding director of the Women and Girls sector, because it became very evident about a year and a half ago, when we thought we were preparing for a woman president, that where were the women? You know, where were the women at the Charter for Compassion? And while we were spread out all over the Charter in different sectors, I wanted to see what it looked like if we brought us all together into one collective. And so now we have over 106, I believe, partners organized in consortium of education and social justice. All of our partners are working to improve conditions and advance solutions for women and girls. And we believe at the Charter Women and Girls sector that when we heal the conditions that impact disproportionately women and girls, particularly girls, we will see that ripple out into a solution for healing all of mankind's suffering. And if you just think about it, what happens when you raise a girl to be in parity, have equal access to education, have equal access to political and financial literacy? We're going to grow, like Rick was sharing earlier about Riane Eisler's work. We're going to grow into a society of partnership, because when girls are in balance and when boys are in balance, we live in balance. We make decisions that are considerate of one another. As a matter of fact, the concept of greed, of separateness, of competition will be one day considered absurd. That is the vision that we hold, that it would be considered unthinkable to have power over another, to step over someone without bringing them up with you. Because when they are better, you are better. We want to see the civilization emerge, that we are all living as one global family, caring for one another. In Riane Eisler's work, I recommend all of your listeners and viewers get a hold of the book, The Chalice and the Blade, because in Riane's work, she illustrates a time in history where for possibly 10,000 years, women and men lived in an egalitarian society where goddesses were worshipped. And what's more, there was no discovery of any forms of weapons. Problems were actually solved in dialogue and working things out. Imagine a society like that. So we know that we can live in that society. We've done it before, and we're being forced into it now again. We really do feel with all the women's work that I'm involved with, nobody is arguing that we are forced into a era of the divine feminine. We are living into the era of the divine feminine. I have the extreme honor and blessing to host Grandmother Flor de Mayo, one of the founding 13 Indigenous grandmothers, every 20 days, actually, which is, according to the Mayan calendar, please everyone know this, according to the Mayan calendar, every 20 days comes around the day of Ish, and that's spelled I-X. And Ish represents the divine feminine. The Ish is represented by the symbol of a lioness, of a cougar, of a jaguar, actually. And the jaguar is known for her agility, her power, her strength, and also her instinctual knowledge of when it's time to sit back and be patient and listen carefully, to care for her young. She also is covered in spots, and those spots, according to the Mayan teachings, represent the heavenly bodies. So we're connected immediately to constantly to our ancestors. And how do we listen? How do we listen into our divine feminine? Pay attention to what our ancestors are telling us. And what our ancestors are telling us loud and clear is that it is time. It is time for women's voices to be heard. It is time for women to, not so much for men to let women do anything. It's a time for women to stand in their graceful power. And I always spell graceful, grace-full. Stand in our graceful, power-full, what we're gifted as women to bring about, and a midwife in this era. It's coming with or without us. So it's bringing it about on its own. How are we going to steward into a harmonious, safe, and less abrasive re-entry into this era of the divine feminine? And these are teachings that we're hearing all over. Rick, I imagine you'll agree. We're friends with the Shift Network, and the Shift believes this very strongly, that, this era is coming, and our Indigenous elders tell us that this era is not unlike a rebirth of a birth of a child. The child is in the womb, and the child is comfortable and gets all of its nutrients, takes so much for granted that this is life, until something happens, until the catalytic shock comes and it's time to move on through the birth canal. Well, guess what? We're moving through that birth canal. The catalytic shock is coming. Look at what's happening in our country at the political level. Look at what's happening to our precious planet and the climate destruction. Let's disrupt that destruction and do something. And what does that mean to what our personal role is in that? And be midwives to what is to come. And nobody really knows what's to come, and that's a good thing. We just know it's going to be good, and we all take a responsible role in that. So on this International Day of the Women, stand up, pull your shoulders back, brush your hair, hold one another's hand, bring along our men folk and our boys and our girls, and honor one another for our biological innate imperative to protect and restore all that we consider sacred. How am I on time, Angel? I could just go.
You are doing pretty good, actually. So if you have a few more things to say, you could certainly do that.
Can I? Well, I always have a few other things to say. One of the things, thank you, bless you for your generous heart. The Charter for Compassion Women and Girls Sector also hosts a webinar series called V2020. We've just had our first V2020 call, which was an extension of our reaction to response webinar series. Because after the events of 11/9, I used to say the events of 9/11 in my interfaith work, but now I say the events of 11/9, which was the morning after the presidential election, where there was a lot of disruption. There was a lot of feelings of insecurity, a lot of feelings of disempowerment. The Charter for Compassion received about 2,500 emails within about a week's time. What are we going to do? What are you going to do? What's happening? Where's the Charter? Where's Compassion? How are we going to handle all of this? And what we did is the women, we stepped in and said, okay, we got this. And one of the first things we did was we created the reaction to response webinar series. How do we move out of the reactionary space into a place of care-based, from fear-based reaction to care-based results and response? So we did an entire webinar series over the course of about a year. Rianne Eisler was one of our guests. And now we're moving into the next iteration, which is Vision 2020. And Vision 2020, the purpose of Vision 2020 is to, not only have 2020 vision of where we're coming and what do we have to do to disrupt the patterns that have been unhealthy and moving into an era of that divine feminine I've been talking about, but also to prepare ourselves to 2020, which will also be a election year. It also represents the 150th anniversary of the Mother's Day Proclamation, which was the first call to action of women who were resisting war. That is the real purpose of Mother's Day. It's for us to insist that our boys will live in a time where they'll never have to pick up a weapon and go to war again. That is the purpose of the Mother's Day Proclamation. It is also to help, which is also the instigator of the suffragist movement, or it was an extra spark at the time of the suffragist movement. And it's also the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. So 2020 represents an awful lot, and we have a lot to prepare for. So we have a webinar series, and a lot of what we're doing is disrupting those patterns, including our language, like honoring those things and those words that represent women: vitality, of course, vision, venerate, vote, vagina, verbalize, our voice, what's visceral, virago, and all these things that have been made profane over the centuries. And how do we want to make them sacred again? So we're looking at our language. We're looking at we're doing a lot of this through the arts and culture. We invite you to participate. And last, I'll leave with this. On one of our reaction to response calls, we had an individual from who's working in the United Nations on, global action to end conflict and war. His name is Robert Zuber. And he was talking to us about the Sustainable Development Goals, these goals that the United Nations have determined as from 1 to 17, which will address all of the world's problems with actual concrete goals and action items and targets to hit. So it was on that call where he said, good policy, the policy is only as good as the people, and good policy requires good people. And in that moment, I realized, we need an 18th Sustainable Development Goal on personal responsibility and self-advocacy. So I developed SDG 18, the unofficial SDG, Sustainable Development Goal. And what I'm going to ask everybody to do is, when whenever you wake up, every time you wake up in the morning, ask yourself, what is your personal responsibility to what makes you come alive? And when you see something, when you see injustice, when you see suffering, when you see laws that don't make sense or aren't being addressed, ask yourself, what is your personal responsibility? And then pay attention to what your self-advocacy is and get involved. It's time for us all to step out of our comfort zone and be compassionate to the world. And therein lies the meaning of compassion. And women, it's what we do.
Thank you, Sandy. That is a absolutely beautiful vision and work that you and the Charter for Compassion are doing. So I will definitely make sure in the follow-up email that everyone receives links to access Sandy and Rick and how they can further help with those projects, because it is very much needed right now. And they do work globally, right, Sandy? I know Rick does.
We have over 2,000 partners in 406 cities of compassion. Organized into our partners are organized into 12 sectors, and we're in 52 countries.
Oh, wow.
We reach a couple of million people with our outreach. Go to our Facebook pages, Charter for Compassion, Women and Girls, and Charter for Compassion.
Awesome. And I will be sure that everybody that's signed up for this gets those links in the recording so that everybody can find you easier and has easy access to all of the wonderful things that are happening with those projects. So thank you, Sandy and Rick. And now we'll move into hearing from some of the women from Treasures from the Universe. And I will start with myself. As the founder of Treasures from the Universe, I'd like to share how this project came about and the magic that unfolded during this process. This project started the same way that all others do, with an idea. A simple idea to send anyone interested an intuitive message along with healing and uplifting gifts in a box. I wanted women to stop feeling stuck in life and business and to know they were not alone in the struggle to letting their light shine for the rest of the world to see. While exploring what that idea would look like in reality, it didn't take very long for the logic to creep in around that. And one glaring question very nearly caused me to forfeit the idea as being feasible. I had my inner voice telling me that, well, what if I had 30 customers? And how about 100? What if 100 people ordered this uplifting and inspiring box that I wanted to put together? The concept would require a lot of personalization and deeper connection with customers. The whole idea was to prevent them from being just a number and actually sending them tangible gifts and messages that would really make a difference in their lives. There was no way that I'd be able to keep up with that number of orders if that did occur. I couldn't have done it on my own. So following my intuition and my higher self, I put the idea out in Facebook groups to see if, number one, would anyone be interested in purchasing something like this? And number two, would anyone be interested in participating in putting those boxes together from wherever they are? I wanted it to be global from the very beginning because I wanted to reach women all over the world. And there was an overwhelming yes to both of those questions. And in order to participate, down the requirements that I had in place to be able to perform the intuitive readings and messages, healing gifts, use their healing gifts and their intuition, and to put together these boxes that would, for each woman to put together a very personalized experience for them and to tune into them, use that women's intuition that we all have to some degree, and to use that ability to really send them a very light-filled box to help them along the journey that they were on. And as the owner of the business, I decided that I would handle all of the other aspects, such as the promotion, the legal requirements, all of the nitty-gritty of getting a business put together. And I wanted the women that participated in this project to be able to, just have fun, put these boxes together, send this love and light to the women in the world that really needed it. But as the project got underway, it didn't take very long for many of the women to actually step up and take the lead on various aspects of the business building side. They all have very many gifts and skills and talents. Their passion, determination, and faith in their ability to heal and uplift the world became more important and larger than their fears of being seen and heard. The project became bigger than just earning extra income. It grew larger than just a focus on self. We've only been in business for a month. My mind is still blown around this project. It's really a miracle to me. Because here we are, hosting and participating in a global summit, partnering with other organizations who are actively doing the groundwork that's so necessary and vital for our people and our planet. We believe in the work that we do with all of our hearts, and that's why 10% of our profits will be donated to We the World right out of the gate. As soon as we start this project. And I will admit that I'm a bit partial to Rick and We the World, because I have been a volunteer. I do have to go on a bit of a break to handle some family matters. But I've worked closely with Rick on some projects. And given this, I have the reassurance for everyone that's watching, anyone who is interested in donating to We the World, that is money that is absolutely very well spent. And I encourage everyone here to make a donation, no matter how big or small. And again, thank you, Rick, for all the work that you have accomplished over the years, and your dedication is admirable.
Thank you.
And here at Treasures from the Universe, customers are beginning to steadily stream in. We currently have 29 women from around the globe working in this project to send these boxes of light and love to any who request them. Having a such large group allows us to truly build the deeper, more meaningful relationships with our customers that I've wanted from the beginning. Because I don't want somebody to be just another number. I don't want it to be all about profit. So we're really focused on bringing that to women, bringing that connection with women, with really personalized boxes that we can send to them and build those relationships in a different way. But I tell you this not to boast about any of our accomplishments, but to illustrate the beauty and magic that can happen when we women say yes. Yes to being seen and heard. Yes to trusting ourselves. Yes to co-creation and collaboration. As for myself, I'll be the first to tell you I do have issues with delegation and asking for help. Were it not for the support and willingness of all these women to be there for me, to own their power, and walk with me hand in hand on this project, we wouldn't be here today. A project that could have very easily taken me many months or years to do solo on my own, was made possible in a very short month by allowing an opening to that co-creation and that collaboration with all of these women, along with trusting my intuition and myself, and them stepping up and wanting to listen to their own intuition and take that leap of faith into really building something that has truly become magical. We have a long way to go still, but I am very pleased with what we have accomplished. And I can't wait to see where we're going, because I know we're doing big things. And with that, I would like to introduce you to Nina Layberg. She is the founder of Angel's Whisper and is an angel communicator and channeler. She has a passion for spiritual studies, science, and technology with a degree in language and literature. Nina is fluent in 4 languages and has formerly studied IT engineering. She places emphasis on the importance of balancing intuition and reason in her work. Nina, thank you for being here. Please share with us the women's empowerment and how that is important to you and your life.
Thank you for having me. I'm absolutely honored to be here today. First of all, hello everyone. My name is Nina. I must admit that I'm really, really nervous right now to be speaking in front of all of you today. And I kind of felt the same way when I created Angel's Whisper. And that happens to everyone before making a change in their lives, especially a big one. And treasures from the universe means so much to me, even more than Angel's Whisper nowadays. So definitely, I am really glad to be here today. At first, when I created Angel's Whisper, I wasn't sure if anyone would be interested in the things that I had to say. I'm a little shy. I wanted to create a community that would allow me to share my knowledge of the universe and my experiences with these wonderful entities, which I call angels, just to make things a little less complicated. And even though I never really intended to exclude anyone, as I believe that all beings are equally important, I've noticed that women are more interested in learning more about the angels and how to connect with them and how to ask for help. And this is actually what it's a wonderful coincidence, because it gave me the opportunity to speak and reach out to these lovely women and to remind them that they were the way they were feeling about themselves, about their lives, about their hopes and dreams. All these emotions were all valid. So it just made me stop and think about it. If I could give them the possibility, the opportunity to realize this, if I could remind them that they can control their lives, their own lives, every day, then imagine how powerful that could be and what it could create. Because I think that it's even the tiniest thing can create something very big and very powerful. And I do believe in the power of people and in the energy of the universe. If there is one thing that my channeled messages from the angels taught me, is that everyone is strong and powerful enough to create their own destiny. Everyone has the capacity to change things, either through their own perception of reality or through their actions. And whilst changing it through your perception of your reality, it is much easier. I think that getting out there and starting to do things, it is more challenging, but it is also much more empowering. It makes you stronger, it builds you up, and it helps you to help others. And I truly believe in helping others, because that is kind of what we are all here in the end. So what encouraged me to start this beautiful community, despite the fact that I was this nervous, was noticing that other people are also nervous to put themselves out there and to be heard. But these people who started doing it realized that speaking together is much more effective than speaking on their own. Their voice could be heard much better. It could be clearer, it could be louder. And that is why it is so important that there are communities like Treasures from the Universe, Angel's Whisper, We the World, Charter for Compassion. There are these communities who are willing to assist people struggling to find their own voice, people who feel powerless or unable to take control of their own destiny. And these communities can actually give the power back to these people. And this is why I love it so much. Every day I like to remind those who follow Angel's Whisper that even if the things that are meant to happen will happen inevitably, each one of us is in control of our own actions and our own destiny. And I think that in this particular era, women especially need to hear this message. Many of them are still in the 21st century oppressed in many places all around the world. They are often forced to believe that their entire purpose in life is to procreate and to be ignorant of the complexity of the engineering that is behind the world that surrounds them. This is why every day I like to remind everyone that everyone is free to believe in their own truths, to make their own decisions, and being part of a community that allows me to do that is something that I'm really grateful for every day. I'm always grateful to have the chance to share my vision with others. And that is what Treasures from the Universe has helped me with since the very beginning. That's why I would like to thank Angel, not only for coming up with such a wonderful idea, but for having the courage to reach out to us and ask for help, because I know it took her a lot of courage to do that. To start building this amazing community that is soon going to make many, I'm convinced, many people smile.
Thank you, Nina. I am so grateful that you're a part of the project. You have been a huge, huge help and a huge part of it. I will be forever grateful for your contribution that you have made already. You're very much a go-getter and really encouraged me to keep going in this project. I really appreciate it. Next, we will hear from Sarah Otis. Sarah is the founder of Healing Hands Holistic Therapies and is a transformational spiritual life coach who uses the wisdom and knowledge gained through a vast array of life experiences, field-specific trainings, and 16 years holistic medical massage therapy practice to guide others to dig deep within themselves to the core reasons for their blocks and limitations to empower them to be the radiant being they're here to be. So Sarah, thank you too for being here and being part of this project. Would you like to share your story of empowerment? Oh, you're muted, Sarah.
In my nervousness, I messed
can't
up.
Hear you.
Yes, I too, even though I am make myself quite visible out there, I too get very nervous knowing that there's a many souls joining us to join in on this, the energy of celebrating Women's International Day today. So I want to thank Angel for creating this platform for Rick and Sandy to join us, and those of us from the Treasures of the Universe group. So I'll do my best. I'll say I am nervous too, because I have something very empowering I want to share with all of you all, and it's probably been one of the most empowering things I've gone through in my life. So bear with me, I might cry, it's okay, I'm being my vulnerable self with all of you all, but I want to say that as far as women's empowerment, to me, it's been a huge aspect in my life, and I have worked to, throughout my whole journey of me having a medical massage practice, was to help empower women, because the story that so many of them were coming in with was feeling disempowered, unworthy, unheard, ugly, fat, and all these things that, you know, society has projected upon all of us. And it's just, I've just felt all along that there's been this mission for me to, I don't know, step out in a different role that I wasn't for so long, but because of my fears and wanting, I don't know, in ways to keep myself small, to stay in my comfort zone. So I knew that there was a profound purpose for me in this lifetime, and I decided to, like I said, put my big girl panties on and let's do this. Let's move forward. And I took off on a journey to India in 2012, which then brought me back in 2014. It was the first time I'd ever left the United States. I just got my passport, and my first place was India. And people said, girl, you're crazy. To go to a third world country all by yourself. And people are like, how are you doing this? You must be really brave. And until someone said that, I was just kind of like, I haven't really thought of myself as being this brave soul. But I just knew that there was this calling inside of me, and I was going to follow it no matter where, it led me. And so what I decided to do was in 2014, I had gone for my second trip back to India, and I was volunteering with the children in the slums of Jaipur, Rajasthan. And I was there for almost a month, and I just knew the first trip to India was calling me, but this one I was like, all right, there's a higher purpose here. India is calling me, and we're going to figure out how to get me back in this country full time. And I went home, and, I kind of kept it secret, didn't tell my family, tried to work out the process of how this was all going to work. Because the first trip to volunteer was done by donations. And I thought, well, that worked well. And I did it all on my own. So let's do it again. So I had 6 months to prepare to close down my business, to go on a sabbatical, and raise enough money that would support me my first 6 months. And I embarked. I said goodbye, farewell to the U.S. I had a clue what was ahead, but really I didn't, because, we all want to try to plan ahead so that we know we're in our safe comfort zone. And that's what I'd done. I had planned out, all the organizations that I wanted to work with, and got to India, and within, let's say, 48 hours, boy, got slapped in the face with reality. And I was getting guidance from my higher, my guides and everything, that, girlfriend, buckle up, you're ready to take a ride. And I was kind of like, whoa, what is this ride going to be? And the whole plan that I had planned out of how I was going to help myself, plus I had gone there, I wanted to work with women empowerment and working with the young children to help them get out of that state of suppression and oppression that so many, not only in India, but all around the globe. And it was hard, seeing the state that people lived in these countries. And I always told people when I'd come back from India, you have no clue what people around this world go through unless you can place your, get in their shoes and be there and experience it. And I said, I did. And I said, it was disheartening, but it was empowering in the sense that, these women, no matter if they're laying on the side of the street, there's traffic speeding past them, they're still doing something to inspire another. Because as I sat there, would watch the women, seeing their strength and courage of how they were going to take care of their family, it gave me this drive within me, and it gave me this momentum that I had never felt in my own country here in the United States. And so through all this, my journey led me into a whole nother direction. And I ended up in the Himalayas, high up in northern India, and I was in a Tibetan refugee village. And it wasn't what I thought I'd signed up for. I was teaching English to over 150 Buddhist monks, ranging from ages 3 to 83, between 2 monasteries and a monastic university. And it was something that was it was outside of what I had planned. So it was very much out of my comfort zone. I felt like I was, just thrown out there, fend for yourself. And so I knew that where I'd been shown by my guides that it's time to buckle up is what I heard. And within 2 weeks of arriving in this village, what I had already been doing to make an impact there was already rippling out. And there was some souls that wanted to push me back down to where they felt comfortable around me. And I was attempted gang rape by 2 locals in the village. And luckily I mustered the strength within myself despite being knocked unconscious. And I had a serious concussion, and I was able to fight these 2 men off me and to run to safety and be able to speak my voice, to be told, no, you can't share this. You're not to report this. You're to tell no one. And I was like, heck no. everyone needs to be told what's going on here for our own safety. We're being brought in as volunteers to come and empower other people and change people's lives. And I'm not going to be silenced, because most of my life I've been silenced. I've been told, go back there, keep quiet. And I let every volunteer come through know what had happened. And most volunteers were very open. Some were very judgmental and said I must have asked for it. And I said, no one asked to be raped. You know, there's powers to be. You know, it empowered both myself and those souls. We're all wounded souls, and different people react and act out in ways that maybe they don't realize they're going to do, because they are seeking their own validation and attention, or to feed those wounds within them. So it was my students who were able to see that Teacher Sarah was not her normal self. And that week, things shifted. And I was able to step into the role of why I was brought to India. And I took command of my classrooms, and life just propelled. And all I know is that people would come in from neighboring villages, and they're like, oh, you're the teacher we've heard about. And I'm like, oh, mercy, you know, what have you heard? And they said, you're doing some profound things to impact the lives of all these people living in this village and the neighboring village. And that, not that I was seeking any kind of validation, that was so empowering to know that all my efforts and hard work was empowering others. And especially when it made it as far down as Delhi, that was a 12-hour bus ride away, that people there were hearing about the change I was making. And I still had a couple more hurdles of souls that were wanting to suppress me. They didn't like how I was changing things. See, a lot of people don't like change because it gets them out of their comfort zone. And so I had 2 monks that actually were my students. I was raped by each of them on 2 different occasions, and I had multiple death threats placed against me by, sorry to say, but the monasteries and some people in the village, because they didn't want me to speak out about the truths of how life is. They wanted everybody to paint this pretty picture. And the point is, it's time to quit painting the pretty picture, and let's band together as a community, global community, to empower women to find the strength and courage within them, and that they can take back their lives and not allow themselves to be suppressed into this mold of, you must cook, you must bear children, you must lay down and allow me to rape you. Those days need to end. And to hear stories back here in the US of how my story and my sharing of my journey inspired them, to me, that was the icing on the cake. It made everything I experienced in India worth it. It's not that, you know, what happened has been washed away. I'm using my story now to launch off to help empower other women to take back their voices, take back their power where they've been suppressed for far too long. And that's where I'm going now that I've come back. I took a 4-year sabbatical. It took me almost 2 years to recover from all this. But now I'm ready to step into the role that India helped me create to empower other women, not just women, but men as well, globally. And I've now become a life coach to help empower souls. And I'm excited about where this journey's headed, and I'm excited to be part of the Treasures Goddesses. And it's been an empowering journey. And I just had asked Source, you know, for bring these women into my life that are empowered and want to empower other women like myself. And their angel showed up. And so I'm glad to be part of this journey and share with all these other women. So I thank you for you all being willing to honor me with hearing my story today. And much thanks to Rick and Sandy for joining us as well. So that's all that I have to share with all of you.
Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate your willingness to be vulnerable, be raw and real with, you know, the reality of a lot of situations. I mean, I think that's really the direction that probably a lot of us need to head with, you know, helping women to feel more comfortable and more safe speaking about the journeys that they've been on, and to quit sugarcoating what's happening in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I admire your courage.
Thank you.
And our last speaker, Nancy Jane, she couldn't be with us today live, but she did create a video for us that I'll do a screen share and show the video that she created. It's about 5 minutes long. It's a really nice video. I really love it. Nancy is a social worker for families that have children and youth with special needs. She's also the founder of Peaceful Awakenings and practices Komyo Reiki and Angelic Reiki, past life regressions, and spiritual counseling and balancing. Nancy is passionate about photography and painting as a form of self-care. In partnership with her husband, they raise registered paint horses, and a few of them have gone on to be used in healing programs because of their calm, loving, and naturally gifted presence. And when I do the screen share, she actually, at the beginning of it, she is outside with one of her mares, and that she is one of the horses that had a baby that went on to be a healing horse. So she's a very beautiful animal, but you'll see her there, right there at the beginning of the video. Let me get that up for everybody. Being very slow.
Hello, this is Nancy Jane. I'm sorry that I could not be.
Okay, just a second. It's actually on my Facebook page. I'll make it larger. She sent it through Facebook.
There we go. To celebrate International Women's Day. However, I did make a video because I wanted to talk to you about how important it is that we talk about women's empowerment. And it appears that my horse Q is trying to say hello as well. So I just wanted to say hello and apologize for not being able to be there today and join in the festivities. However, I know that it's going to be a wonderful event, and I hope that you all enjoy the video. Thank you. Have a wonderful International Women's Day.
When I think of empowerment, I think of vulnerability. We have been conditioned to believe that being vulnerable is unacceptable, when in fact it is the best thing that has ever happened to us. Without vulnerability, we would never have had the opportunity to rise above, to be authentic with ourselves and with others. Allowing ourselves to accept the gift of vulnerability gives us the empowerment we need as women to be authentic, not only with ourselves, but also with the women we surround ourselves with. The women who we honor by sharing our stories are uplifted and gain a knowing that we not only share their pain, but we also share their hope. Empowerment is knowing and recognizing that even though we may have hit a place in our lives where we feel hopeless, there is a recognition that there is more. Empowerment allows us to connect with that deeper part of our soul, to dig deep within ourselves and to rise above stronger, wiser, and more humble than before. It's okay if you've gotten off track. What matters is that you have it within you, the personal power to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, Hold your head high and be grateful for the lesson learned. This is true empowerment. This is the story that we need to share with the women around us. This is the story that we need to tell our daughters, our granddaughters, nieces, aunties, mothers, and grandmothers, so that they know that they too can be simultaneously vulnerable and empowered, to be confident and humble. Being empowered means letting go of the need to control and having faith that what needs to happen will happen. Empowerment is the spark that lies within each and every one of us. Even though we may not recognize it, our spark is there, waiting for us to fall in love with it and share its beauty. Empowerment is recognizing that you deserve better than existing in an abusive relationship. Empowerment means having to humble yourself to get food stamps to support your young children because you do not have any other way to provide for them. Empowerment is recognizing that existing in survival mode for many years has not only had a detrimental effect on your relationships, but also on yourself. Empowerment is making sure that your young children have a Christmas to remember, even if all you can afford is one toy and a package of hot dogs and a box of macaroni and cheese. Empowerment is having the strength and courage to say, I'm done. I've had enough. I deserve better. I want better for me. But true empowerment is having the courage to recognize, hear, and accept what your soul's needs and desires are, and having the courage to put into action the hard work that is involved in uprooting yourself in order to discover who you really are as a woman. Becoming empowered can be messy and chaotic at times, but it is always a beautiful experience because it is our experience. David Bowie said, we can all be heroes for just one day. So I challenge you to be that hero for one day, for one woman, for one girl, to see the difference it can make in your life and in the lives of the women and girls you surround yourself with. I encourage you to live a beautifully empowered life.
Thank you, Nancy. I know you'll be watching later. That was a very beautiful and inspiring video you put together in such a short amount of time. I loved it. You all are speaking to my heart today. You're going to make me cry. And I would like to, we can go ahead and move into, if all of the speakers would like to unmute, we can move into a conversation about what inspired actions can our audience take. Like, what can they do right now? I know Sandy touched on it, and Rick did also, touched on some things that people can get involved in. So yeah, we can start a discussion with that, and any other things that any of the speakers want to add during this conversation.
I just want to add, I want to thank Sarah and Nina for your unprecedented courage. I am so honored to be on this call with you and to hear you. For wherever your courage was coming from, thank you for saying yes to it. Because that we have to, what you've demonstrated to me is reminding me to stretch the boundaries, stretch the edges of my comfort level. Because it is time. We're running out of time. It's an all hands on deck moment in time right now. We can't, like you said, Sarah, the time for playing small is over, right? Our conditions are reaching a peak. So that sense of urgency is all around us. But that doesn't mean you have to be frantic or fear-based. In your care-based approach to how you've stretched your edges, thank you.
Thank you.
We are with you, sister.
Yeah. Well, I can say the Charter has 106 partners in the women and girls sector, organized in all different types of sections, all sectors and consortium, all with their own laundry list of ways to get involved. So there's one way. You can go to Charter for Compassion Women and Girls. Just go to Charter for Compassion and the partners under Women and Girls. You can find a plethora of opportunity to get engaged. We also have leadership opportunities if you would like, and I invite both of our speakers to join us as ambassadors for our Millennial Voices campaign and initiatives. So there's one way. I know Rick also has a wonderful database of incredible resources and ways of getting engaged too.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that we've done every year since 2004 is something called 11 Days of Global Unity in September, from September 11th through September 21st. And in a sense, the origin had to do with the International Day of Peace being coincidentally on September 11th, 2001, and then the UN making a resolution to put it on September 21st from 2002 on. And so we created that to kind of symbolize the journey from fear to hope. And so those 11 days become a convergence of events and change makers from around the world that are doing things for peace, sustainability, and transformation. So the cool thing is that those 11 days have kind of morphed into 11 campaigns for change. And so while we still do the celebration of the 11 Days of Global Unity in September every year, the 11 campaigns for change go all year round. And the 11 campaigns are unity, interdependence, environment, economic justice, health, children and youth, women, human rights, freedom, disarmament, and peace. So there are 11 opportunities, depending on what your interest is to get involved with one or more of those campaigns, either through your organization or individually. And as I mentioned before, we have the We team, and Angel is a major part of our We team, and that we have weekly calls from around the world. We have a woman in Botswana who's starting a branch of We the World in Botswana in Africa. And we have people in Uganda and France and Canada, Italy, and many cities around the United States, and other places I'm forgetting. But we meet every week on Zoom, and you can be part of that and take part in what we're doing to create a better world in collaboration with all of these incredible organizations like the Charter for Compassion and others. So I look forward to hearing from you about that through Angel, maybe, or you can just go to we.net, one of the easiest web addresses to remember.
How did you get so lucky, Rick?
Well, it was a bit of luck, and it was a bit of money too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes, but anyway, so it's all about we, collaboration, cooperation, connection, all of that, and that's what it's going to take for us to turn things around. As Sandy said, we're at a crisis moment in so many different ways, right? Socially, economically, politically, and environmentally. So part of our vision, and I'm working on this, I hope we can all work on this, is to get to the point where all of these different strands of activism actually come together at the same time for the same purpose. I mean, that's one of the big things that we're working with because, and Sandy, you know this, and I'm sure a lot of us are aware that there are these silos, that people are in these places where, you know, the environmentalists are working on their own over here, the human rights people are over there, the peace people are over here, the spiritual people are in another place. And very often they get caught up in their thing and they don't necessarily come together to work. And so part of what we're doing is creating these platforms that allow for cross-movement and cross-disciplinary cooperation and coordination.
Can I just add to that? Not only is it possible that we get together and work intersectionality, it is necessary. We have to, I can't solve human trafficking in my organization if I'm not working with homelessness, if I'm not working with domestic violence, if I'm not working with wage gap, if I'm not working with all social justice, religion, and spirituality. We are all required to bring down those silo walls and see our interrelatedness and see our interrelated solutions. Because then when you end domestic violence, see the impact it's going to have on homelessness. And you can do any configuration of solution and in problem, and you're going to find we're all connected. So important. So Rick, thank you so much, because you were really the model for the Compassion Games. You were really the model for, I'm sure, that the charter and how you've organized your sectors, so to speak. And I really want to honor you for that. You're just you're a quiet giant among us. I'm just going to sing your praises because I know you're too humble. But Rick is really an amazing inspiration for the world, the peace movement in general. We are really lucky to be alive at the same time as him.
Oh, thank you, Sandy. I could say the same for you. You've been an inspiration for me and we for many years. Thank you.
I will definitely second that praise for Rick. He does quite a bit and nobody necessarily sees everything that he does, but I've worked closely with him before and he's very determined.
Yeah.
So, I want to jump in. I want to say something because part of something else I left out of my story because I knew it was going to get too emotional is I got caught up as well in the midst of all that. I was engaged to a guy from Nepal that turned into a very bad situation. It was highly abusive, and I'm lucky that I'm here speaking to you today, that he didn't fulfill his wish to kill me. And so that's me wanting to be a voice for the women that are dealing with domestic violence and those women that have been raped and other sexual things happen to them, that so much of it's meant to silence you. And the point is, if you stay in that silence body, you're going to fester so much anger and so much hate for the world that so often, you know, you're going to end up spatting that out at things. And the only way I could control it, why I healed, is I went into isolation. And what was so disheartening is I would put my white flag up asking for help, because I'm like Angel. I have a hard time asking others for help. And I would put my flag up, you know, asking fellow women to help me, and how painful it was to be beat down and told, no, you must have asked for that, you know, and to tell me I shouldn't share these things, that it's going to put me in danger. And I was like, hey, I've already been put in enough danger. Someone needs to hear this, because it's inspiring someone else to say, no, I'm not going to allow this anymore, to decide to walk out that door, take your children and say, I'm no longer going to be beat anymore. I'm no longer going to live with all this adversity going against me. It's time for women to take back their voices and to find that strength and courage. Trust me, it's not easy. It's not easy. And I had to go to a point of losing everything. I mean, I should have filed bankruptcy. I had nothing. And if it hadn't been for my family and like maybe one or two girlfriends that hung in there, I wouldn't be where I am. And that's the thing, is we've got to be a support to these women that found that courage to say, I need help. You know, I don't know what help means or how it's going to look, but somebody hear me. and don't ignore them and say, I'll deal with you tomorrow. I don't have time, maybe tomorrow. Their time is now for us all to band together as a community and help women. And there are men as well. It's not just a women's movement. There's men being raped too. And I witnessed with the monks. And that was hard. That was very hard for me to see how they're being raped as a form of discipline and silence. And that's going to end. And it's going to take us as a global community to step out of those comfort zones and do whatever it takes to start empowering. Start in your own community. Like people said, why did you need to go to India? So that's where I was led. But you could do something right here in your own community. Maybe become a mentor and help empower a young child, a girl or boy that's living in a life of adversity. When I was younger, I worked in the girls club. And so hearing the stories that these kids were going through, we all could help. Even if it's just, I'll take you out for dinner one time, and allow them just to talk. Because that's the thing, most kids are told, zip it up. It's time for us to hear everyone's voices and let them be known deep inside that they're being heard and they're being seen. Because that's so often why we seek outside of ourselves. And it's sad in today's generation, you see all these people out here doing the selfies. I feel like if I have to go through Facebook and see another selfie, I'm going to scream, because the thing is, most people are reaching out for some kind of validation, for someone to say, you are beautiful. I see you. I hear you, when they don't feel it here. And see, that's where we need to help. We're all wounded souls, and we all are here. So much beautiful wisdom to inspire and empower others. It's now time for us to use it and fulfill these purposes that are going to create a movement and step into, like with what Sandy's doing and what Rick's doing. If this is an inspiration for everyone to step up, let it be heard. So that's all I want to share.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
I guess that we can open up the lines now to the audience if anybody has any comments or questions. I see a couple of familiar names here. Michelle Reed. I haven't heard from her in a while.
Hi, Michelle. I miss you on our calls.
Yeah, I miss being there. How are you?
Very good.
That's
can you turn on your video so we can see you?
Oh my goodness, I've been ill. I can try.
There you are.
Here I am. Hi everybody. It's a very beautiful show. I'm really glad that I get to see it. We have had our power off. We lost our power again. It was lost last Friday. We had the huge northeaster come through. We didn't get it on till Tuesday. Then another storm came in last night. And we just got the power at 1 o'clock this afternoon, so I was happy to be able to be here. So.
Wow, and you're in Massachusetts, is that correct?
Yes, yep, right near, near Boston, yes.
Wow, yeah, we heard you got a lot of snow.
Yes, we did. So, but very beautiful show.
Thank you, Michelle. It's good to see you again.
Yes. Good to see you too.
Do you want to tell people what the kinds of things you've been working on? You've been doing some great stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm still working with the children of. I actually helped orphans in Pakistan get uniforms. I got uniforms for 50 children in Pakistan. I'm working in Kenya with a children's home with this young man, Noah, trying to help him create sustainability and ways to help the children that are in his care. And in Ghana, there's a hospital. So what I do is I connect people with resources. So I look up organizations that are working in Kenya that can help these young men. They're actually young men who are taking in the orphans. And so like Shoes That Grow. There's an organization that gives them shoes that grow for 5 years, goes with the children. So I will email them and have them contact them, or I'll help them with a letter so that they can get the help that they need. So I'm empowering them in the middle of handing out for emergencies, but to empower them so that they can get to the point where they are taking care of what needs to be done. So I'm giving them the resources and helping them write the letters. And so there's a home in Uganda. There's two actually in Kenya, and there's and one in Uganda that I'm working with, and just giving them resources. And then the other big thing that I'm working with is the Puerto Rico relief and the regrowing of Puerto Rico, and working with the evacuees that are here in the States. I'm trying to find farms. So I'm working with like Farm Aid, NOFA, in order to find farms and land to make sustainable communities for these evacuees. When the FEMA money runs out, there's going to be a lot of homeless evacuees here in the States, from Florida all the way up to New York. So I've been working closely with different organizations in trying to find them work and housing. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
I bow deeply to you. I thought, wow, that's amazing. Thank you for all your amazing.
Well, it's, I'm here for the children, and I really, has been my thing, is I work with youth at risk, and making sure, I would just love every child to be able to be a child. My biggest wish would be, I even wrote to Richard Branson for an airplane. I would love to make smiles for the children of the world by going there and bringing them hula hoops and bubbles and jump ropes, just to have them be able to be a child for a day, because there's just so much sad reality that they go through every day, that to just be able to see a smile on their face. And I mean, with Kenya, I got Dress a Girl, and I ended up getting dresses for these girls, but it was a need. They needed clothes, they need shoes, but to give them something that we just take for granted here to be children. So.
Sounds good, Michelle.
Yeah, I'd like to know more about your work, because, well, for a number of reasons. We have Compassionate Pakistan, for one. It's a well-resourced organism, so perhaps they can be.
I'd love to connect.
Yeah, and we have the Botswana as well, Rick. So perhaps we can collaborate better.
Yeah, I can go back on the calls on Tuesday, Rick, if you send me the info.
Yeah, we moved it to Monday. We moved it to Monday.
Okay,
well,
Mondays are free. Okay, I'm free, and I'm back. My leg is healed, and I'm walking, so I'm pretty much mobile now. And
that's good.
Yeah,
that would be great. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah. Fabulous.
Thank you for being here, Michelle. Is there anyone else have any questions, comments?
Mm-hmm.
I would invite Michelle and anybody who is working in other places in the world and looking to connect with like-hearted people, and as well as like with Rick, with We the World, to look at where we are in the world. The Charter for Compassion, Cities and Regions of Compassion. There's another network, a thriving network there of like-hearted people that are working to improve conditions for women and girls, perhaps. I can't be sure, but it's worth looking and locking arms with them, and them knowing about you, because they might be waiting for somebody like you to come up with the need.
Well, the greater the more, this is why I really believe in that whole we, because we is in wellness, it always, and I is illness. But moving forward, we have a greater impact if we're working together, instead of trying to do it all by ourselves. And so I definitely, love the fact that there's so many of us. And I mean, just think of what we can be, we're all doing it, and then doing it together. I mean, it will just ripple out into a tidal wave.
It's happening. Yesterday I was part of another committee that's working. It's called Core 8.7, and it's a Sustainable Development Goal number 8, and their target number 7 addresses head-on human trafficking. And it's a convergence of these organizations and individuals working to do that, like a consortium to do that. Mm-hmm. And I had just sent them an email welcoming a new partner that the Charter for Compassion got that's working in Rajasthan. And I can't wait to send you some information about them. And within an hour, three of them, and these are all people working at, they're highly skilled individuals, either in film or, creating documentaries or doing really courageous work. Let's just put it that way, or looking for funding solutions, and they want to take their talent somewhere and help this consortium. And within an hour of me sending an email of introduction to our new partner, to them, they reached out and copied me saying, we want to help. He had just gotten a welcome letter from me welcoming him as a new partner. But now you see how it's just happening. And this is why our voice is so important. We have to start showing up and saying, I need help. Here's what I need. Very clearly what I need, not tiptoeing around. If you need $10,000, I need $10,000. And I need a documentary filmmaker, and I could use some nonprofit coaching, whatever it is that you need. Just be very clear with it, and it will come. I believe.
It will.
I believe.
I believe.
That's because all of these things are treasures from the universe.
That's right.
You just have to open up the portal. And I want to say also, Rick, it's no accident that you got .net. Azure.
The network of we. That's what it's all about.
The net. Well, the net is in this ever-growing constellation in every direction.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're a host to humanity. Thank you.
I wanted to also mention that we're releasing for International Women's Day, we're re-releasing an interview that we did with Eve Ensler, who many of you may know from her widely acclaimed production of the Vagina Monologues. And she started a movement that's in, I think, all of the countries in the world now, 200 countries or something like that, called 1 Billion Rising. And it's the 1 billion, the number comes from this statistic that 1/3 of the women on the planet will, during some part of their lives, experience some kind of abuse or violence. And so that comes out to about 1 billion women. So this is about 1 billion women coming together. Anyway, we have this powerful interview that we did with her a couple of years ago for the 11 Days of Global Unity Telesummit. And so you can access that at we.net. And also at we.net, you can access the most recent telesummit we did, where Sandy was one of the speakers, along with Deepak Chopra and Ralph Nader and Marianne Williamson and Robert Thurman, Karenna Gore, Al Gore's daughter, and many others. So all of those you can access at we.net. And of course, if we can work together, that would be fabulous. So thank you again, Angel, for putting all of this together.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for being here today. I really enjoyed that.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I guess that is it. If nobody else has any more questions or comments, we can sign off.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Angel. Thank you so much
Angel.
for everything. I'm in deep gratitude to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angel. Nice to see you, Nina.
Happy International Day of Women.
Happy International Day of Women.
Yes. Everybody have a wonderful day.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.